Many of us who prescribe to any of the Abrahamic faiths will be familiar with the Book of Genesis and the cataclysmic event that was the Great Flood, the world-ending event that washed away everybody and everything apart from Noah's family and a horde of animals aboard his ark. However, few of us, despite how devout we might be, have the in-depth truth as to what could have led to such an event. You might be abreast with the fact that great sins led to this, but who were the main instigators of this period of iniquity? To know this, you have to have read the Book of Enoch, and that would be nearly impossible because it's not even considered canon of the scripture. However, in these pages of this ancient text, you'd find all the answers to our question. In there, you'd learn who the Watchers were and the role they played to begin those dark days that brought about the end of the world when they refused to carry out their duty to the letter. Watch this video to the end and see what these Watchers did and how it played out for them and our ancestors. Let's take a look at the Watchers, the angels who betrayed God. One of the most major characters in the Book of Enoch, the Watchers were also known as the Sons of God or the Grigori. They were 200 angels led by one named Samyaza, who was charged by God himself to monitor the activities of his most beloved creations, mankind. The only caveat to this instruction was that they were never to interfere in human activities, no matter what they saw. What one might have thought to be an easy enough security job only ended up leading to the destruction of human society as a whole. It might shock you to learn that the catalyst to these disastrous events was lust, because as the Watchers carried out their duty, they soon began to desire the human women. Driven by intrusive thoughts, these angels soon began to plot on how they would disobey God's law and find some women for themselves. Upon learning of this, Samyaza was quick to protest since he was the leader, and it would be him and him alone that would face the almighty wrath of God if he should ever learn of these atrocious intentions. However, his resolve proved to be weak in the face of temptation, as he was quick to drop his protests when the other angels swore to take their share of the brunt of God's anger. Only then did they descend from Mount Hermon, a mountain named so in commemoration of the oath they took, and little time was wasted by these angels to copulate with these women, with little thoughts on the consequences of their actions other than how angry God would be. The first major consequence of this malfeasance was the birth of terrible monsters referred to as the Nephilim in the Book of Enoch. The rugged giants, driven by a savage need for violence, consumed everything within their reach before destroying everything the humans built. And if that wasn't enough, they went on to destroy the humans, and once humans were done with, they didn't hesitate to turn on even themselves. And it doesn't end here. While their hybrid children were running amok throughout the world, these angels were teaching humans things God never intended for them to know, like witchcraft and sorcery, cutting up the root, incantations, astrology, and science. One watcher in particular, named Azazel, seemed to take special pleasure in the corruption of human beings. He focused further on this corruption, teaching them how to forge swords and wage warfare on each other, while also teaching them paints and dye, giving man the ability to alter the world. As a result, the sin that was referred to in the Book of Genesis pervaded through the land. Fornication was on high, and mankind, as it was at the time, was corrupted by the presence of these angels. As you can imagine, this was all too much for man to bear, and soon their tears filled the earth, so much so that they reached God and his archangels. Immediately, said archangels made the plight of mankind known to God, and he sprung into action. First, he instructed Archangel Uriel to find Noah and tell him about the world-changing events that would soon hit the land, and that Noah must shield himself from the world in preparation of what was to come. Next, he instructed Archangel Raphael to deal with Azazel personally, as he was seen to have played a more active role in the destruction of human society more than the others. Raphael was to cast him to the pits of the Dudale Desert and throw pointed stones at him. This is where he will lie till the end of eternity. After damning Azazel to the desolate pits, God instructed the archangel to deal with the Nephilim, those savage giants that wreaked havoc all over the world, and he was to wipe them off the face of the earth. However, he was to do it by bringing confusion among them, a confusion that would drive them to turn on themselves. Finally, Archangel Michael informed Sanyaza and the other watchers that they were polluted by their deeds, and as such, all of their sons will be slain for 70 generations as they were witnessing it. And after that, they will be flung into the lower depths of hell, where they will be burnt for all eternity. Furthermore, Enoch the scribe, the one the book was named after, was also instructed to inform the watchers of their impending damnation. Although this may confuse some of us because God had already instructed Archangel Michael to do this, it is believed that God sent Enoch perhaps to show the angels that now man is equal to them, if not above them. When Enoch relayed this to all the watchers, these savages began to fear the repercussions of their actions and were quick to beg Enoch to plead with God on their behalf, as they had seen the errors of their violent ways. Enoch obliged them, showing no hate in his heart, but praying to God for them. However, this appears to be in vain, because in his dreams he learned that God's stance didn't change. Speaking to the watchers in the word and the voice of God, he told them that their punishment is unavoidable and that they will never be allowed into heaven again, and they will be bound on earth where their suffering will never cease as they burn in the fires of hell. This doesn't seem to be the end for the plight of the watchers, as there are details of their punishments. As Enoch gets a tour of the stars in the universe, he comes across a desolate spot in the stars where there were great pits of fire. Noticing his companion's fear of the place, Archangel Uriel informs him that this is the prison of angels. Although it's never mentioned the watchers were kept there, we can imagine that this is where the watchers would be held. Nonetheless, it's when Enoch continues his travels that he comes across anything that we could consider to be the watchers. Once upon such a time, he came across the fifth heavens, the least magnificent part of heaven, according to the great man. Described as having no service, this is where Enoch came across a group of angels known as the Grigori, a set of angels taller and grander than you can ever imagine. However, their beauty was marred by their withered faces. Upon inquiry, Enoch learns that these angels might actually be the Watchers, as their stories are eerily similar. Having once gone down to earth under the leadership of one named Sataniel, these angels copulated with the human women, bringing about chaos with their spawn. Although not many details are given, it's believed that Sataniel is considered to be Satan himself, as he and his fellow angels were cast onto earth from a great height, and that Sataniel sought to raise himself above God, much like the morning star himself. Nonetheless, he also acknowledged that these angels were damned forever. They tried to sing to God, but it's so weak it doesn't even draw God's attention. Some believe that may be because their singing was so empty you may question if there is even any remorse in their voices. No doubt it's clear that despite being a non-canonical text of doubtful origin, the story in the Book of Enoch is truly fascinating. Furthermore, they give us more context to the great reasons for the great flood that purged the world of the Watchers and their evil spawn. In essence, we also learn of the power of evil and how it can corrupt even those believed to be more powerful than humans. Well, that's all for today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can be notified about our next videos. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of that.